How's it going? I'm Jeff Slakey here in the office of the Superintendent of Shelton Schools, Wyeth Jessee. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Jeff?
Good to talk with you. An interesting time now as we are moving back into a legislative session where I know school districts across the state are going to be lobbying their representatives for additional funds and additional kind of face time to kind of explain issues that have been going on. The cost of everything is going up and continues to go up. And Shelton School District is seeing a lot of that impact right now, having some budgetary conversations. The budgets, the bills that have come traditionally in the past are larger than before. And let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, no, it's a statewide, kind of actually a national issue. So having talked to superintendents in other states, so it's not just here, but it's the local way of seeing it is knowing that, across the state, people's increases are significant across the bills, in particularly the issues of special education, transportation, what they call MSOC, so your materials, supplies, and operational costs, which you have discussed, have gone up a real lot, and substitutes.
So substitutes meaning regular teacher salaried staff who are in the classrooms on a daily basis. When they're not there, you have to have subs come in. Mm-hmm. And it's not like you're not going to pay the teachers their salaries for the year. You have to figure out then to also pay the subs. And I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that since COVID, people's thoughts on sick days have changed.
I don't know all of the reasons why, Jeff.
People are a little more open to not coming in if they're not feeling well, I guess.
I think that holds true. That's from what I see in my seat. Again, this is not an issue just for the Shelton School District, so this is not, but across the way, that's why it's a common issue across the districts in Washington State. So, the state gives you, they call it apportionment. So they do line items, some general expenses that they believe is called basic ed expenses. So here's your basic ed dollars. Now you go forward and you figure out how to cover your costs. So the state gives us $44 million for basic ed expenses. Our overall budget's 83 because we have all these other more restricted, they call them restricted things to serve students that qualify for reduced lunch, special education, even though it doesn't cover all those costs, and then a number of homelessness, title programs, a whole bunch of things that do try to hit the needs of more needy populations. And that's our district, right? We have a number of students who need other services, and that's what people like the school districts to do. But the subs line item, the state gives us $104,000 on subs.
And that's for the school year?
For last school year, yeah. Okay. From September of 2023 all the way to the end of August, which there's no subs in the summer, right? But for the last school year, the state gave us $104,000 for substitutes. Our cost came in at $1.59 million.
Whoa.
So you can see where...
That's like 10 times.
So where do you make up those costs, right? So it either has to happen within your budget, which... How do you do that when, we have not increased our services, we're not hiring a whole bunch of other additional people. But like I said, when your people cost more and your expenses like substitutes or any of your operating costs go up significantly, you have to cover those costs somewhere else. And that is usually your general fund or your levy if you have a levy. We do have a levy. It's drawing about $7.1 million a year out of an $83 million budget. It's actually not, as you can hear here, a tremendous amount of money to cover those additional expenses when you start factoring in things like increases in insurance, fuel, food, all that, transportation. Those things have all gone up.
So I'm going to ask some questions, and you may know the answers, or you just want to just let me ask these. But
sure.
When it comes to the legislature, and there is a push through what it sounds like the Office of Superintendent of Public Schools, and then the legislature as a whole, to really take care of the homelessness issues and affecting the students who are facing homelessness and houselessness, also special ed needs and things like that. But how many, you may or may not know, how many of the actual legislators or the bill writers are recent or current teachers? I mean, how much input are current boots on the ground teachers, or even you at the superintendent level, able to pull the ears of these folks and say, listen, $149,000 is not going to cover us to do subs. We can't have an empty classroom. We've had this McCleary discussions forever. When are we gonna square this up here?
Yeah, and I think, Jeff, the unfortunate part is that the general public says, hey, you got your money, here's your budget, operate in it. And for the staff here, we want to do the best job we can in understanding that there's ups and downs in budgets. The squeeze here on this one is, across the state that is what people call basic ed, and what I think most families and our students expect. There's not enough revenue coming to cover all those expenses.
Yeah.
And so we're not doing anything extra fancy around here at all. And so walk into any of our schools, see some of the things that, we're not able to cover up on some of our maintenance costs. You just can't, things are super expensive. I want to replace that gym floor over in the mini dome. That's $1 million minimum.
Sure.
Right at the bat. Right. And so where does the district get $1 million from? Well, we don't have an extra $1 million. And so when I have right now at the stadium, for example, have to replace the pillar, that's $100,000. We do put in our budget for some emergency expenses, but that gets eroded fastly when HVAC things don't come through. Things like having to do more filters now coming off of COVID. So we use more intensive filters that cost more money, not just because they're more effective, but just because that's part of what the health procedures are now, and that's the expectations that we're going to start running on. And the legislators knowing all those details, I don't think is something that I think it's becoming more well known, but I think, just from the questions I get from the public and even from some of the folks working for state agencies, like, what's your real cost, Wyeth? And I go, hey, that's what that really cost us in real-time dollars. I go, oh, got it. And so I'm sure our state legislators are also in some of the same position, and hopefully it is getting their ear. I do understand also that the state has also frozen their own budget.
Sure.
And so their own staffing. So, education is one part of it. In the state constitution, paramount duties, obviously providing basic education, as well litigated, under McCleary, but that's the situation. We'll make adjustments, so that we can provide, fiscal stability here for the Shelton School District. That's the plan moving forward. We will do that. There's already reductions. I'm taking a furlough, for example. There's cuts here over, 6 positions just this year for district office. But at this point, I can't continue to cut because I got to do just really basic services, you know, and so, and have the oversight that, we need to do to make sure things are done the way they should be done.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when we came in, and this kind of actually leads into it, is the district's mindset or just kind of an overall thought on parental involvement as the kids grow up through the school system. So my son's in elementary school, and there's still a pretty robust parent-teacher organization. There's still a pretty robust volunteer opportunities for them to come in the classroom and read and help out with those types of things. And now next year he'll be going to middle school. And I noticed that from what I hear from other parents, the participation drops
pretty significantly.
And by the time you get to high school, it's almost non-existent. There's booster clubs and there's parental folks that help in those types of things, But what are there ways the parents can continue to be involved that might help the load a little bit when it comes to in the classroom?
Support, yeah. So that's, we absolutely love to partner with our families, and supporting students. So the parents and guardians of our students, sometimes even siblings, because things are really close knit here in Shelton. Welcome them to come in and be participants in sometimes just after school activities, and then of course our events that we have throughout, any given week, including weekends, are the things that we do. We've had an increase in the number of family members that want to come in and be part of the classroom experience since COVID. So that's worked out well.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to say, yes, please come and volunteer. We have a volunteer form. They can contact the district office. We'll hook them up with the right forms and background checks, and so we can get those done and then get them in. As kids get older, it looks different, right, Jeff? So for not always necessarily, especially when you think of those, as you're alluding to, like the middle years.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't necessarily want to be seen with their parents, Jeff.
Sure,
I hate this.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's informed you of that yet.
I haven't seen that yet.
Not always do they want to be seen with their parents. Can you drop me off a block away from school? These things do exist, not for everyone, but they're trying to create their own independence, right? It's just a part of child development, of creating identity formation. Then as kids, kind of get older in high school, parents, are always involved. They just sometimes not always right next to their student. I've noticed that, many of our events, those parents come, middle years included. High school can look like literally fundraising events, sometimes definitely sporting clubs. Those parents are there. They're there cheering on. I did NJROTC last week. There was a number of parents in the crowd. It was during the day cheering on their student, 100 students that are there. It was a wonderful event. And that, kids are getting recognized and celebrated. So it just does look different, Jeff, but here in the Shelton District, we want parents to be involved as much as possible. Schools are the center of our community. They expect more and more, I think, from us, because it's just, like, hey, where can I have my kid involved in after-school activities? That wasn't always the case where it was the schools, right?
Yeah.
And some of the basic supports that we have, food, day and night, right? Like breakfast is now central to these things. Transportation is critical to getting kids to school. Always has been, but those services just even cost more, right? And so after school, I'd love to even have more buses and more kids come in after school and stay with us for supports for them as we try to obviously have readers and writers and mathematicians and good citizens.
And I get now, and I understand too that especially in rural districts, opportunities for parents to get away from perhaps their first, second, or even third job, to make ends meet.
That's right.
Can make it very difficult.
Absolutely, well. we support that need, and that's why I think that's the notion of having so many clubs and activities that we have across our 8 schools is an opportunity to help families that can't necessarily be there for when their kid is coming home, that they need some more support. Kids have interests that want to fulfill them, and so we can do that, and we can do that for in large free, right, for them.
Back to the budget, I saw a post, and you know how these go. I think it was on Shelton Talks, so take it what you will. But they were talking or asking about the cost. I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but the cost per student. Mm-hmm. What is the dollars allocated to each student? And I feel as though I saw something around the $18,000 range.
Yeah. So
can you kind of break down like what that is, how that works out?
Yeah, that math came, I don't know if it came directly from me or not, but it's about $18,000 per student for the allocation from the state. If you just said, hey, here's that $83 million, just simply dividing, the 4,400 kids that you have into that number, that's what you come out with.
Okay.
That's where that number comes with. How those dollars get divided is different, because certain students cost less or more based on the services they get.
Sure.
Right. And so we have more intensive services for kids who have more need. Let's say kids with special education. And the way the state allocates those dollars for special education is not enough to cover all those costs for kids with IEP. So we will cover those additional costs. And so that, again, the money has to come from somewhere to provide those. And it's not just them, but it's other students for other reasons that we do have those services that meet the need of our kids in the most equitable way that we can do it.
And it seems like parents are advocating more for their students to receive, and it's an individualized education plan. Is that what that stands for?
IEP, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
And so it seems as though parents are advocating more for their students to get on these programs. So the number of those has increased over the last many years.
Well, I would say the percentage has increased. Having been a special education teacher and a former director of special education services, it has gone up as far as percentages. I don't know if advocacy as much as it is maybe education and recognizing differences of students and their needs. And so I think it's a lot of been the parents and families just knowing more about, hey, my kid needs these things to get the education that they deserve. And so let's look into it and evaluate them. There is a formal evaluation process, so it's not just willy-nilly. And those assessments are pretty standardized so that you can figure out, hey, yeah, they have a discrepancy. Their education is different. They have another need.
Yeah.
And so, that's what they're afforded. I don't think that probably comes as a surprise in this day and age where people are more informed about what it is that they should expect or how their own student is different and the needs that they need to, what their basic needs are to get a better education. IEP or not.
Right. You recently had a long-time tenured director of finance retire, Brenda.
Correct.
She was great around here.
35 plus years, and so, here we definitely want to recognize our employees, for their longevity of their service. And so, that comes and goes for every school district, Jeff. And, we have to turn around, and one of our initiatives in our strategic plan is effective educators and leaders. And so we got to go turn back around to hire. Hiring's hard.
Yeah.
And hard to fill those kind of roles, especially for finance. I posted the job, don't have many applicants. And so we were really fortunate to get a gentleman named Clinton Sherman's veteran director of finance from the Tri-Cities.
Okay.
So knows Washington State finances.
Yeah.
So that's good. And school finance. So we feel fortunate coming on the heels of, losing a veteran staff member to what we have now.
What would you like to advocate for Shelton School District in this upcoming session? If there were no limitations, or you're able to get a year on the 35th reps and say, try to get a carve out or try to make them understand blank.
Jeff, you should facilitate sessions where legislators get interviewed. Oh, wait, you do that.
I do that.
Okay.
That's why I'm trying to get questions for the next time
I bet you are. So let me start off, because I want to make sure before this conversation ends. One is I just want to say, hey, the Shelton School District is doing great things for kids, right? We can get lost in sometimes these operational challenges. Budgets come up and down.
Right.
For all state agencies and for school districts. I can't count how many times we've had to tighten your belt at a budget across the different school districts I've worked for. So This is not a new topic. What I do say is what's different about the Shelton School District is we are getting really great outcomes for students. And so when we have kids that are from third grade, I look at other districts like us, similar profile around free and reduced lunch numbers, around 65, 70% of the students qualifying for free and reduced lunch. The number of students who qualify for multilingual services or a representative where English is not the primary language at their household. Us versus those other districts, we are outperforming them. We are doing an outstanding job. Third grade reading, just 2 years ago, was 25%. Now it's 43%. I mean, that's a tremendous increase. That is 50 or 60 more kids, Jeff, at just one grade level. who are now reading and writing at grade level or exceeding it. That wouldn't have in the past.
Sure.
That's outstanding. We got ninth grade on track. It's great. Got attendance going up, our discipline going down. We got kids in school, right? And so those are all the really good things. So I just got to put that plug out there that no matter what some of these other things are, the expectation is that we're still providing high quality services, education services to our students and our families, that they should expect that. That's not an excuse for it. What I'd say to legislators is, help me out because the needs of our students are different. They are different. They are expensive. We are now, when I started this 25 years ago, we talked a lot about, because as obviously a special education teacher, mental health is very much was at the forefront of the services and the things that I knew kids need. We need more of those services. We got to help provide those things so that kids can access their education better when we provide those things. We do that here in the Shelton School District. There's not a line item for mental health. Help me.
Yeah, okay.
Help me.
I see what you're saying.
And just the basic cost of some things, the operational costs, when insurance goes up significantly, water and sewer went up a lot, like almost $500,000 a lot.
Wow.
That's a lot of money, right? They start adding up all these expenses, subs included. So you can hear, oh my gosh, Wyeth, I hear you. These are millions of dollars increases from what we get from the state or even what you can budget. And, we're asking people, a levy to cover it. A levy can't cover all those costs. And that's why we are where we're at. Help me out. They got a lid on the levies. That was part of McCleary. For me and for other school districts, it's okay. So give me some non-restricted dollars, basic ed dollars to help cover these costs, right?
That's right. There's a few districts that don't have that lid. Isn't that right in the state? Or was that something else where there were additional school districts that were able to ask their voters for more funds? Not that you're going to go out and ask for these monies, but I thought I read somewhere that there was something where different school districts had a different
They do.
caps.
That's the old way. You're right. The caps were different before McCleary. That's what came out of that. And so now it is a common lid. So that lid applies for all districts now. That was the practice before. And again, it's the, what's the income level and the worth of the houses in different communities still draws what people can draw from.
Right.
Right. And so that's part of that problem for us is, you're going to have a smaller levy and drawing from less. And other districts have capital or technology levies where they're drawing additional dollars over to pay for ongoing maintenance projects or technology. I'd love those dollars. That would help us provide, $3 million extra into our general fund that could provide that balance. Other districts have that. We don't, Jeff. And yet we still are expected to provide an outstanding services to our families. And we'll continue to do that for what we have. Please give me some more resources. I need some more counselors. I need some more mental health therapists. I need most certainly providing better transportation. I want to make sure my facilities are upkept because we don't want to go back to the taxpayers for a bond. Schools are over $100 million, Jeff. I mean, let's keep what we got and keep it up.
Yeah.
And the taxpayers have been very kind to us around the bonds. We have really nice facilities, but that high school up there isn't going to last forever.
Sure.
I mean, it's old.
Yeah. And
so things do break down. What's going to happen, right? OBJH. Parts of the high school that need a new roof. All right, that's going to be a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And again, we're back to what's budgeted here for the Shelton School District. Tons of resources are just burnt on just everyday expenses like fuel, water and sewer, insurance, garbage. Those are the things that we just get eaten away that are our non-staffing dollars. People think that we have, where's this other things that we have? There's nothing, there's no other extra.
Looking at those wins about the third grade, the ninth grade, is that on OSPI where you can do comparisons between districts? Is there a place you can look those up?
Yeah, you can do. Yep, you can go right on OSPI's website. They have their report. It's over towards the right on their front page. It'll sit up there and then have district reports or data reports right there. And so you can just go right into that. You can enter in a school. You can enter in a district into that, and then you can do some comparison. You got to know that's a little bit trickier about the same kind of profile. That's just because I'm a superintendent. I've been around. I know where some of the communities, and a lot of those comparison communities are actually in Eastern Washington, right? Like, so if you think of like how the Shelton School District is configured around the demographics we serve, it's a lot more. There's not like a ton. Aberdeen's a little bit similar to us in that sense, some similar profile in general, right? There's a lot of different layers to it, but most of those other comparisons are actually Eastern Washington, less than something that you would find up and down, around South Puget Sound.
Yeah.
Or just the greater Puget Sound for sure. So.
Well, it's good information to go check out, and especially if you're seeing information out there online and you're not quite sure if it squares up with what you feel about how things are going, it's always good to go check. Always you can see into the school board meetings through, going there in person or through Mason Web TV is another opportunity there. Always appreciate the time. Be back in a couple months here to see how else things are going with Superintendent Wyeth Jessee of the Shelton School District. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeff.